Welcome to another episode of Chax Chat. Join Chad Chilius and me, Dax Castro, where each week we wax poetic about document accessibility topics, tips, and the struggle of remediation and compliance. So sit back, grab your favorite mug of whatever, and let's get started.
Welcome, everyone. Today's podcast is sponsored by Pane Incorporated, a full-service accessibility and technology practice. Pane partners with organizations of all sizes to shift mindsets and empower people. Wherever you are on your inclusive journey, Tame's team can help you with web accessibility assessments and accessible digital solutions. Tame believes access to information is a human right, so head on over to tameininc.com and get more information. My name is Chad Chilius. I'm an Adobe certified instructor, as well as training director and accessibility wizard at Chax Training and Consulting.
And my name is Dax Castro. I am director of media productions here at Chax Training Consulting. And Chad and I are both certified as accessible document specialists. And if you'd like your accessibility document specialist certification, head on over to accessibilityassociation.org/certifications and get yours. How you doing, Chad?
Doing okay, man. How about you?
I am enjoying my koi pond that has fish in it now. So I have moved past the leak stage. It's still a little wet there, but not leaking, I would say, by any means. So we put the koi in last week and they've been swimming around, getting well adjusted, doing great. In fact, I put a new sunshade over the entire structure and it really kind of brings it all together. It makes it feel like it's an extension of a room rather than just this pond kind of out in the yard. So looks really good.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yep.
Well, the weather here has been, I swear we've had like all four seasons in like 3 days,
Wow.
Like Saturday was in the 70s and then yesterday was in the 40s, you know what I mean? It's just like bouncing all over the place. But for Christmas, my wife bought me a quoit set. Now, do you know what quoits are?
No.
Right. So this is a Northeast thing. It's really a big Pennsylvania thing. Quoits are kind of like horseshoes, but they're circles.
Okay.
And you got to get like the donut on the pin instead of like the horseshoe type of thing.
All right.
But she bought me a set that you could play indoors as well. It's like a slate and they're rubber quoits. So we were out in the yard yesterday playing quoits, and if anybody here knows what quoits is and appreciates it, I'd love to hear from you. And
put it in the comments.
Yeah,
I'd love to see
put it
that.
in the comments. I'd love to hear anybody else who's familiar with it. So
Awesome.
anyway, we have some interesting things we wanted to talk about today, right, Dax?
Right. Yeah, I'm excited about this one.
So, on the, and again, we get a lot of our ideas from the PDF Accessibility Facebook group. You know what I mean? We kind of like look for like hot topics or, things that were, that are common threads, in the Facebook group. And one of the things that we've recently encountered was, what would you call it? Confusion, maybe? Just like
I think differing opinions
differing opinion, misconceptions, like kind of all of the above, right? On the use of, we'll list these out, right? So use of the tags pane, use of the order pane,
right,
and use of the content pane. Right. Like was there any other ones that I missed there?
No, it all stemmed from a post. If you guys don't know, our podcast, our PDF accessibility Facebook group has right now 4,444 members. 44444. And it's great. And so somebody had posted a thing about a form that they had made a table out of inside Word. And it wasn't really a form that was going to be used. It was a form that was going to get populated by an automatic script. The doctor's office has a form and they use a database, and they basically database merge the data into these Word docs. And then they get sent off to the government or to some study. I don't know exactly where it goes, but somebody needs these in an accessible format that they can view, not necessarily that they can fill out or anything else. And so there was a lot of discussion about the use of the table as a form. And if you listen to our previous podcast about tables and forms, I think the question was, literally the topic of the podcast was, can a form be inside a table? And so a lot of people have different reactions about this, but some of the subtext was kind of starting with the content pane and the reading, the order pane, and kind of how you could break this table out into just a layout, from a layout table into just actual content. And there was a lot of misinformation. So I thought maybe today we would take some time to kind of walk through each one of these areas and talk about why and when and how you use the content pane, the order pane, as you rightly call it, Chad. I always end up calling it the read order pane. Some people call it the Z order pane, right? Z order panel. And then the tags tree or the tags pane. And so, yeah. So Chad, the first thing that we all know is the tags pane, right?
Right. And before I dive into this, there's something I just wanted to tag on to what you were saying. I love about the PDF Accessibility Facebook group that people are trying to help other people, right?
Right.
But in our industry, we often allow our opinions to dictate our advice.
Mm-hmm.
And all I would say is, when you're providing guidance to people, try to make sure they're backed up by fact, right? Like, try to make sure that you're not just like, this is how I think we should do it. Try to back it up by, maybe science probably is not the right word. I guess it is kind of, in a way, right? Back it up by science, or just back it up by research, factual information,
right? By understanding. Research,
yeah. So yeah, the tags pane, right? So let's talk about the tags pane. A lot of us understand that tags are one of the most important things you can include in an accessible PDF file to make it accessible to people using assistive technology, right? And the interesting thing about tags is that they're imaginary, okay? The tags are like imaginary things, right? They're not physical things that are like connected to elements in your document. Tags are a way of identifying elements in your document, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because if you delete a tag, no harm, no foul, right? You're not removing an object from the page. You're not deleting it from the document. It's kind of a theoretical component, right? But it has intrinsic value.
Well, think about it. You go to a store, you go to, I don't know, TJ Maxx or something like that. There's a tag, right? And oftentimes the tags are stickers, but a lot of times the tags can be attached with a string. And if you take that object home, you don't leave the tag on it, you cut it off. But does that change the object you bought? The vase is still a vase. It just had a label attached to it to tell you how much it cost. And so, like in the tags tree, same kind of thing. What object, what category, what department did this object come from? Did it come from housewares? Did it come from home and garden? Did it come from kitchenware? Right? That tag is a thing that helps you understand what the object is, and in a store's case, how much it costs, versus the tags tree, where it tells you what the object is, or what kind of object, what department it belongs in, and then other things on how it's treated and how you interact with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a really great analogy too, Dax, because you're right. Like in a store, the tag tells you how much the product costs. It also may tell you what department it's in, but actually that information is probably used by somebody else, not really you as the consumer, right?
Right.
So, and tags in a PDF, they really perform a very similar function, right? A tag tells you what the object is, right? So whether it's a heading, a figure, a list, a table, whatever it may be, it identifies what the object is. The order that the tags appear also controls the order that assistive technology is going to read those items as well, right?
Well, let's define assistive technology. So PDF UA defines assistive technology as as programs that read the tag order. If your program, whether it is assistive technology to you or not, does not read the tag order, which is one of the reasons we're having this whole podcast conversation, then by PDF association or PDF UA's definition, it's not really what they would call assistive technology. It would be called a text to speech engine, or maybe a screen reader, right? A PDF association says it's not truly assistive technology for digesting a PDF if it doesn't read the tags tree. If you're using Speechify, you would say that's assistive technology. It's helping you read the document. But PDFA would say it's not truly assistive technology in the sense of for a PDF because it uses the read order panel, which we're going to talk about later. So just know that the tags tree really is for things like JAWS and NVDA that read correctly the tag order.
But I mean, the term, I don't know that I agree with PDF UA's definition of assistive technology.
Oh, I don't at all.
I feel like assistive technology is ambiguous enough to say that any tool that assists a person in consuming content is assistive technology, right? But,
right.
I think it's good that you clarified that and understood that. But you are right. The two main assistive technologies that we typically refer to is JAWS and NVDA. And both of those assistive technologies utilize the tag tree and the tag order to consume and read that content. So, and when you're working with tags in a PDF file, you can manipulate them in any way you wish, right? But, and we often need to do that, right? A lot of times we'll open up our PDF file and things are tagged incorrectly. Well, I can rename those tags. I can move those tags to achieve the experience that I want the user to have. So, the tags panel, super important. But I can also say that not much damage can be done using the tags pane, right?
Right.
We can't really hurt the file. I mean, we could create a poor experience, right? But we can't really harm the file. We're not going to detrimentally affect the file, by messing with the tags tree.
Right, because the tags tree doesn't affect the visual appearance of anything on the page. Now, I did look up while you were talking, Chad, the PDF UA conforming reader and assistive technology. So it really isn't whether you call it a screen reader or assistive technology. They're saying either one. PDF UA-1 standard not only specifies file format requirements, but also the behavior of a conforming screen reader in air quotes and assistive technology in air quotes. A conforming screen reader is a PDF consumer according to ISO 32000-1 that interprets the tags tree correctly. So it goes on to explain some more things, but basically it's saying any conforming, the word here is conforming, screen reader or assistive technology is what they're talking about. So if your screen reader or assistive technology does not use the tags tree, it is considered a non-conforming assistive technology. So just
according to the PDF UA, right?
Right. Yeah. And I'm not sure, like you said, I'm not sure I agree with that because, there should be a way for the user to use whatever tool they need to, but I get PDF Association's experience or point of view in that, okay, look, we're setting up this mechanical way of a programmatic way of ingesting this PDF. And if you're reading it in a different way, we can't help that. What are we going to do?
Sure.
And that's why the read order panel or the order panel still exists, because common sense would say, fine, just do away with the order panel and just have the tags tree. But there's all these other programs that still need something. So,
yeah. So you bring up the order panel, and so that's kind of a good segue into, the next, item we want to talk about, which is the order panel, right?
Some people call it the Z order panel, or I call it the reading order panel just for my own thing. But yes.
Do they call the order panel the Z order panel or the content pane the Z order panel?
The Z order panel.
It would make more sense to say the content pane would be the Z order panel.
Agreed, but the icon for the reading order panel is the little Z in the icon. It has 4, which makes it even more confusing, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, listen, like, which is even more the reason why we need to have this discussion. So, the order pane, how do I want to say this, is the most useless pane that you could use in Adobe Acrobat.
But to be fair, it used to be the only pane before the tags tree. It was only the content order and the read order panel. That was it.
Right. But in modern times, as of today, the reading order pane is the most useless pane in Acrobat. And you know, the short takeaway of this is don't use it. Okay. It's very tempting because it's named the order pane.
Right.
And so people see this and they're like, oh, this is how I fix my reading order.
Right.
But that's incorrect. Okay.
Well, when you open to make it even worse, when you open the order pane, it has a bunch of little numbers in it that you're like, okay, any obvious person would look at this and go, oh, number 10 is at the top. Nope, that should be number 1. And they start moving things around. And that's when that's when they reach out to us usually.
I mean, our jobs would be so much easier if they would, you know, resolve some of these things, right? You know what I mean? Because here's the problem, guys. Like again, you open up the reading order pane and you're like, oh, and it shows you all the numbers of the order of your objects on the page. And you're like, well, wow, this must be where I need to go to fix this problem. And you start moving stuff around and you spend countless minutes, maybe even longer, you know, getting everything correct, only to go back to your tag pane and see that absolute chaos has ensued, right?
Empty tags and things that have rearranged themselves.
Merge tags and like, you know, all the work you had done in your tags pane is now gone and lost because everything has been messed up. So unfortunately, the reading order panel is destructive, and it's destructive to your tags pane.
Well,
right?
Way back in season 1, we had Leonard Rosenthal on from Adobe.
Yeah.
And when we asked him about this, his answer was, oh, it's a feature. And we went, I'm not sure it's a feature we want. It's like, you know, it's not a benefit for us. But, you know, the idea is that it's really hard to create a logical system that would understand what you're doing in the order panel and then equate that to what instruction needs to happen in the tags tree. So we really would wish they would just leave our tags alone and just fine. Let's order the stuff in the order panel and put it in the right order so that older assistive technology, Speechify, Dragon Naturally Speaking, text, read and write,
text help,
you know, I mean, those programs could then find it and read it correctly. But unfortunately, it's somehow tied to the tags tree. So that, and I will tell you, a lot of people, we have a podcast. Do I need to set the reading order? And Sonia Lewis is on that program as a person with traumatic brain injury who uses text help or she uses Speechify and Dragon Naturally Speaking. And it is important. So we're not trying to say don't set the reading order. We're just saying do it carefully. And we're going to tell you here in this next bit exactly how to do it, which is by using the
content pane.
Pane. And Chad, tell us more about the content pane.
So the content pane is the one that we really should refer to as the Z order pane, because the content pane is very similar. If you've ever used like the layers panel in Adobe InDesign, or you've ever used bring to front, send to back, the content pane, as you adjust objects in the content pane, you are bringing them forward or sending them to the back. Okay.
Right.
But the content pane also allows you to address the reading order. As you make adjustments to the content pane, you are affecting and or fixing the reading order in the document. The content pane, however, is reverse of any layers panel you've ever used.
Right.
where normally in a layers panel, like in Adobe InDesign, as you move stuff to the top, they are frontmost in the document. The content pane is the opposite.
Right.
As you push them down in the content pane, they get pushed to the front.
Well, and
So
to make things even more confusing, remember when we said the tags don't affect the visual look of your document at all? The content pane absolutely affects the visual output of your document. And if you have a black box with white text in front of it and you're like, oh, this text needs to be in the reading order in a different place, and you move it, all of a sudden you let go of moving it and it now disappears. It doesn't really disappear. It just goes behind that black box. That black box is somewhere in your content order, ahead of or farther down in the list than that piece of text. And now you've got to go try to find it and push it up to the top, which is the back. And so typically what I'll do in a document where there's lots of those things going on, I'll find them all and just drag all those boxes to the top of my content pane, as long as nothing's overlapping. And then now I know all the boxes are in the far back and all my text is in the front, and then I can start moving them around. But be careful if you've got objects that overlap each other, that the order in which they appear matters, as well as the text. Now you've got to keep track of that stuff too. So it can be, this is why born accessibility is such a good thing. Design in your document the way it needs to be so that when you export your document to PDF, you don't have to do any of this, right?
Yep, absolutely. The content pane has other benefits too. I've received a lot of really sloppy PDF files in my day. And what's cool about the content pane, so the content pane works similar to the tags pane, where you could click on the top content object and start hitting your down arrow key, and it'll start moving down in your content pane, highlighting the object on the page as it highlights the object in the content pane. And one of the really useful things that I've used in the past, a lot of times I'll open up a file where they had put like 30 empty returns in the document.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Each one of those returns is an item in the content pane. And as you go down there, you can see them highlighted. Now, in the content pane, content is content. Content in the content pane is an item on the page.
Right.
Okay.
It has a physical object attached to that element in the side panel, that order.
Exactly. And if you delete that object from the content pane, you delete it from the page. Now, in the case of 30 empty returns, I would argue that that's useful.
Yeah.
I'm simply cleaning up the complexity of my file. And as a matter of fact, a little tip for everybody, and Dax, I don't even know if you know about this. If you go to your content pane and you click on the option button at the very top of the content pane, there is an option in there called audit space usage.
Yep.
And if you choose that, it runs a report on your document.
Right. And it tells you not only how many images, bookmarks, content streams, fonts, all these different things, right? It tells you how many bytes they are and what percentage of the document are those objects, right, Chad?
Yeah. Like it even tells you it tells you how many images, content streams. I don't even know what that is, Dax. How many fonts or characters are in your document. It gives
but it doesn't tell you how many. It tells you how much file size is being taken up by that object.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It tells you how many bytes and what the percentage of the document is. Right. So like I'm looking at a document right now where 58% of the document is taken up by fonts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because they're using how many different fonts in a document, right? This goes back to proper design. If you people say, oh, my document's so big, why is my document big? Well, you probably got 15 fonts going on in there. Every one of those font libraries has to be included. The one I'm looking at has 48.5% images, right? Half of this document's file size is images. So when you're talking about compressing a file down or making your file smaller, if you use one font set with a couple of variations, you're going to have a much smaller and cleaner looking document than if you have 15 fonts going on. So,
but then getting back to what I was saying about the content pane, if you go through and delete objects that are not needed by the document, you're reducing the overall overhead of that document, you know?
Agreed.
So it can really be a beneficial thing. I mean, I'm not telling anybody that you've got to do this in every document. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I typically will do this when I get like a really messy file, when I go through the content pane and it's highlighting all these objects on the page that aren't even really there. They're
but
like
Chad,
white objects.
But there is a purpose for this. I mean, there is a reason to delete these. So the other technology we talked about, Dragon Naturally Speaking, Speechify, Text Helps Read and Write, right? Those things are going to voice those, and they are going to say blank for each one of those objects. So while you might say, okay, if I'm just considering JAWS and NVDA, I really don't need to go in and delete these. But alternatively, though, if I leave them in, the older technology is going to hear blank, 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 because you use 7 hard returns to make enough space for your image on the cover instead of using space before, space after, or text wrap in a correct way. So right now, if you've got a document that's got 15 different hard returns in a row, while they don't appear in the tag tree, and JAWS and NVDA will not voice them, other assistive technology may, and that can be a problem.
100%. So keep that in mind, guys. I mean, like I said, as a general rule, like most of the documents that I create, I'm not going into the content pane and cleaning anything up. But if I get a PDF from somebody else, I will often just go in there just to see how clean or dirty the file is. Right. And if it is a mess, I will spend some time cleaning it up because I know it's reducing a lot of the overhead in that file. So,
well,
and then,
go ahead.
Well, one other thing I wanted to say is, so I just said that in the content pane, you can fix your reading order. The problem is when you go to the content pane, you can't see the numbers of those objects.
Right.
So the way to get the best of both worlds is in your accessibility tool on the right side of the Acrobat interface, click on reading order, and that'll open up the reading order panel. And then if you go to the content pane, you'll be able to see the numbers as well as the content at the same time. It's kind of
it would be amazing if they actually just put the numbers next to the item in the content pane itself, in the list, in the content pane, that it would just be, I wouldn't have to open the reading order tool to get the visual numbers. I could just look on the left and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on down the road. But it's
preach it, brother.
Yeah, I have no good words to follow to back up what I'm about to say. And I know that there are people in Adobe who listen to us. You and I kind of touched on this offline a couple of weeks ago. There's so many different hands that have been inside of this program and all the Adobe programs.
Oh, yeah.
And to change anything requires so much testing, because the moment you change one little thing, you're like, oh, I could change that. That's not a big deal. You inadvertently break 15 other things. And when you're talking about millions of people who are using this program all over the world, and all of a sudden something breaks, that's a whole lot of tech support and a lot of angry emails you're going to get. So they're very hesitant to change things that have to deal with core architecture because of the possible impact. It has to be thoroughly tested. So, yeah, it's definitely.
I mean,
a thing.
they and it's really interesting, Dax. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but they recently added an AI feature to Acrobat. Right?
I was in a meeting with Adobe about that just last week. Yeah.
Okay. But the thing is, the only way you see it is if you keep the new Acrobat interface.
Yep.
If you're using the old interface, which is what you and I do, Dax, right? Because when I saw that new interface, I'm like, oh my God, like this is so backwards, from using the program for, 30 years. And now all of a sudden you're switching me around. So I went back to the old interface. But if you do that, you don't get that new AI feature in Acrobat. So, I wanted to test it out a little bit, so I had to switch back to the new one, do a little bit of testing, and then I just switch back.
Some things to note about the new AI. So the new AI tool is about the design. So what I learned in this meeting was that the tool is designed to help you understand the document you have. So if you have a document, you're like, hey, could you summarize the 5th and 6th paragraph? I'm not sure I really understand. It will read through those paragraphs and give you a summary of what those are. But if you're like, this is my letter to my boss, can you help me rewrite this to make it sound more professional? It won't do it. It's not designed to be like a chat GPT. It's designed to help you understand the content that's in it. Now, if you need to know where something is, you can it'll cite the sources where it pulled what it's telling you as a summary, where it is in the document. But it's not about creating new stuff. It's about understanding what's there. Although what I am interested in testing, and I think you and I are going to do a podcast on this in the future here, is the use of the tool to create image descriptions for image charts, graphs, and infographics, right? And photos. I'd love to put it through its paces to see if I can get alt text for an image and see how well it does. Because if I could open the PDF, get that alt text that the AI generates, and then copy and paste that back into my source file later, so I don't have to write it, hey, that would be really great. But again, we know alt text can be challenging, and I haven't tested the engine to know whether or not it will do something great or be more kind of fall on its face. So we'll see. Future podcast episode, be watching for that. So
yeah.
Cool beans. Go ahead, Chad.
Well, no, I think that covered all of the navigation panes that we wanted to talk about: the tags pane, order pane, content pane.
Right. Now, there is a time where I might use the content pane to go at, so here, we talked about the content pane as a way to modify the reading order, the order of the objects on the page. We know that the tags pane is the panel that you use to set the reading order of objects in your document for JAWS and NVDA. We know the reading order pane is the pane that displays what the current reading order is. So if you wanted to go in and change the stuff in your content pane and then go back to the reading order pane and look at it and say, okay, did I do it right? If you didn't open the reading order pane like you were the reading order tool like you were talking about to kind of do it as you go, those are great uses for those panes. But the content pane can also help you tag elements that are hard to get to. Right. So if you open the reading order tool, your order tool, and you want to start drawing boxes around certain items and tagging them as certain things, as headings or figures, et cetera, but there are some things that might overlap each other. Or when you try to select something, it doesn't just get the one character for the bullet that you want. It connects the bullet and the next 2 words. You're like, no, I just want the bullet. You can go into the content pane and drill down into one of those folders to find just that bullet icon. And then you can select that and then go back to your tags panel and then create tag from selection. But just remember that wherever your cursor was in the tags pane before you went to the content pane, that's where that tag is going to show up. And we've talked about it in plenty of other podcasts, but there is a specific order in which you do it. Create your tag first, then with it selected, switch over to the content pane, find the object you want to find and select it. Now go back to your tags pane and right click on that selected tag and say create tag from selection, and it'll drop it right into that tag. So pause this or take notes or whatever you want to do. But that is the way to use the content pane and the tags pane in a way to get really granular about selecting items. So the last thing we want to talk about, we've really been talking about kind of mislabeling or misusing tools that are in in Acrobat. There's another one that we hear all the time. When we say tab order, there's two different tab orders. And you're like, well, which one do you mean? And usually it's the one where when you run the Acrobat report, if you've combined your document from multiple documents, you'll almost always get a tab order failed in your report. Easy fix for that. Right click on it and say fix. And all it does is it sets the property for those page content objects to follow the content pane in the order in which they're presented. You and I talked about this offline, Chad, but the funny thing is that content tab order is really not something you could change in any other way or even manipulate inside Acrobat. The only option you have is if you go into that tab order property, you can say follow the content pane. Actually, what are the different ones that we can set? So if we go to organize pages, right, to organize pages, right click and go to page properties, the tab order says use row order, use column order, use document structure, or unspecified. Now, when it's unspecified, you will get that tab order fail.
Error, yeah.
Yeah. So row order or column order would be if you had a document that was just like type text, no real structure, and it just had a series of objects in the tags tree. You could tell it to follow the row order and go down, across, or follow the column order and go down. But typically, we don't ever see that. It's almost always use document structure, which is use the tag order, right? Use that content order or tag order that we've set. Now, the other tab order is the tab order for form field objects, right, Chad?
Yep. So whenever you add interactive form fields, right? So text fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, drop-down lists, whatever, you can set the tab order of those form fields. And this is actually super important in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, I'm working with a guy right now and he sent me a PDF form to fill out.
Mm-hmm.
And I started filling it out and I hit the tab key and it jumped to the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's this? You know what I mean? Like, for a good experience, like I think for intermediate to advanced form people, I always use a tab key because it logically should just go from one form field to the other. And when the form field is off, it's brutal. It's a really, really bad experience for a sighted user like me, but also for somebody using assistive technology.
The one thing I don't think a lot of people know is that you can actually turn on numbering inside the prepare form dialog box, right? So if you've got all your form fields and you can see them and you go over to your tool panel and you hit prepare form, and then you now have the forms Docker or forms panel open, it shows you all of the names of the different forms, form objects, form fields in your page. But what it doesn't show you is the order. They're stacked in that right order. And so you can see that they go from the top is number 1 all the way to the bottom, which might be number 30, but there's no numbering to them. But with that open, if you hit the little 3-dot menu, you have the ability to select show tab numbers. And when you do that on your page in the left-hand corner of each of the form field boxes, it will show you the number of that form field. So you can double check to see, are the elements being displayed? If someone hits tab, where are they going to go in that reading order? Now, you could have your tags tree set one way and then your form field order set the other way. If someone's using assistive technology, they're going to hear that tag order But if you're not, and like you said, Chad, you just hit tab with nothing open, just, hitting tab, you're going to use that form field order. And so it could be different. And again, we don't want to have a reverse bias where the assistive technology user gets one experience that is correct, but the non-assistive technology user gets a different experience. So as a method of just good document design, guys, check your form field order in your documents to make sure that they are in fact working the way you expect them.
And I wanted to elaborate on one thing you said. You were talking about like when you use the reading order panel to tag your content,
right?
And you often will get more than what you want,
right?
So a little trick that I like to remind people about is when you're using the reading order panel, on Windows, if you hold down the control key, you can subtract objects from that existing selection. So like if you highlight something and you grab too much, you can hold down control and say, oh, remove this from my selected area.
Right.
Or conversely, you could hold down shift if you need to add items to that selected region of elements. So I use that a ton. I mean, I said, you and I have very different methods of tagging like that. Both of them very valid, but I think it all depends on how your brain works, and what you prefer.
I just thought of something, Chad. Maybe we should have a speed test.
We should
do a tag a document, so you could do it faster and correct, but faster.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
If you want, listeners, if you want to see this happen, leave a message in the comments, whether we post this on LinkedIn or our Facebook group or wherever, or even on our YouTube channel, because this is posted to our YouTube channel. If you guys don't know, we have a YouTube channel and we do record the video of this. If you're just listening on the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, know that we do post this on our YouTube channel, and just search for Chax Chat. Well, it'll come up, and maybe we'll do that.
Let us know if you guys would like to see that. That would be really fun.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you gained some useful information out of that discussion. And hopefully we were able to clarify, when to use one pane versus the other and what the benefits are. We once again want to thank Tamin for sponsoring our podcast. We really appreciate their support. As a reminder, Tamin partners with organizations of all sizes to shift mindsets and empower people. Wherever you are on your inclusive journey, Tamin's team can help you with web accessibility assessments and accessible digital solutions. So head on over to tamininc.com. My name is Chad Chilius.
And my name is Dax Castro, where each week we unravel accessibility for you.
Thanks, guys.